Hey everybody, we got to talk about hearing loss for a little bit. So in a previous video, I talked about how hearing loss is related to bacterial infections in your ear and your sinuses and how that's connected to having dogs lick you. This one, I want to talk about hearing loss that is related to dog barking. So here we have an article that I've keyword searched for hearing. So it says you got to protect your hearing when you're around dogs. They can reach 110 decibels. So there's the effects of dog barking on humans: sleep deprivation, hearing loss, mental health issues, and performance issues. So when you hear loud noises, you may become irritated by things you would not normally be irritated by. So dog barking has already been proven to cause problems. All right, so now let's go look at something else. Okay, here we have a study. There are many studies that study this very similar thing, but it's called helplessness and cognitive performance. And helplessness, cognitive performance is all affected by hearing loud noises. So, like with my other videos, I'm going to keyword search this article for children. Okay, so children are affected by something called learned helplessness. Effects of environmental noise on a learning child in development and how it affects a short-term and long-term exposure. So this talks to us about how kids listening to loud noises that they cannot do anything about, it teaches them learned helplessness. Learned helplessness is very torturous to their young mind, and it's very detrimental to their proper development. Okay, I keyword for emotional. So environmental noise has an emotional impact. Emotional impact. The emotional effects of learned helplessness include depression or a depressed emotional state. The emotional effects of learned helplessness, whoops, I already read that one. The emotional impact cannot be relieved. The emotional impact of the stimulus, denying or ignoring the stimulus. So when children are exposed to a constant loud stimulus, it's very, very detrimental to them. A keyword search for impact, because I want to see what this impacts. This is how we got to do research, guys. The physical environment impacts of our health and well-being in many ways. Normally, a noise in particular may affect cognitive processing and mental health, motivation to complete tasks or activities. This is a very long and detailed study. Cognitive effects of learned helplessness include the fact that it's difficult to learn that a failed coping mechanism or failed behavior in one situation can be helpful. So what they're talking about is the perceived helplessness of one situation becomes a habit. And so when the person goes into other situations, they have to apply the same habit. When coping has failed, the source cannot be altered or emotional impact cannot be relieved. It wears us out cognitively. The cognitive resources that are left then need to be used to process the task while also processing the background noise. So that's not good. It's especially not good for kids with their developing mind. We're hurting them and we're setting them up with bad habits. It is known that chronically exposed children are more vulnerable to learned helplessness due to less perceived control over their environment. So have a look at this study. The study talks about learned helplessness and how kids get it from having to listen to noise. And they don't mention dog barking in here, but kids have to listen to dog barking all the time. Crowded apartments, adults that get way too many dogs in their house. And I visit people often or hear them talk on the phone, and I will hear a young kid in the background saying, "Shut up," and then the dogs bark, and then the kid has to yell, "Shut up." And so these kids are being berated by this dog barking all the time. And it's just pure child abuse. It's pure child neglect to do this to our kids. So here's another study about the effects of Environmental noise exposure. So dog barking is environmental noise. I keyword search for children, like in my previous ones, and it talks about impairment in children, sleep disturbance, annoyance, negative health issues. Let's look at some of the pictures. So here it talks about noise. Now they're using aircraft noise, not dogs, but I hear dogs way more than I hear aircraft, so what's up with that? And honestly, that aircraft probably is carrying dog products anyways. So, but we have sleep disturbance, annoyance, depression, cognitive and emotional responses, activation of the autonomic and endocrine systems. Your adrenal gland is being worked too hard. Your immune cells are getting activated. Glucocorticoids, which is the stress hormones, and look at some of the problems downstream: hypertension, endothelial dysfunction, increased glucose levels and insulin resistance and inflammation. That's not good. Why are we exposing our kids to this? Let's look at another picture. Okay, see the effects that are happening here? Glucocorticoids. Here's our changes in behavior: cognition, feeding behavior, stress eating probably, fear and anxiety, motor coordination. It's affecting all of these parts of your brain. Look at some of the downstream medical problems that can happen from this: depression, anxiety, annoyance, hyperactivity, inattention in children. Doesn't that sound familiar? Reading comprehension in children, risk for stroke, dementia, and cognitive decline in later years. So one thing it mentioned in there was diabetes, right? So diabetes is terrible. And more our kids have diabetes at younger and younger ages. Here's one. Here's a little study about diabetes. Is this good for us? I don't think so. Why would we want more diabetes? Especially on kids. That makes no sense. Let's do a keyword search. Okay, I did a keyword search for children. So what's going on? We only got a couple results. All right, that's okay. Let's just... Holy crap, you guys. This is a huge study. So, oh my gosh. Sorry about that. So, anyways, diabetes is a huge issue all over the place. The Global Burden Disease Study. Diabetes is one of the leading causes of death and disability worldwide and affects people regardless of country, age group, or sex, using the most recent evidentiary and analytical framework from Global Burden of Diseases. So diabetes is a big problem. And if you look around in America, diabetes is affecting younger and younger children all over the place. And yeah, it's a problem with sugar and processed foods as well. But we're making it worse by exposing kids to this constant stress of dog barking. So let's go back to learned helplessness for a moment. Learned helplessness is the behavior exhibited by a subject after enduring repeated aversive stimuli beyond their control. That's like dog barking. People that have dogs are constantly doing that thing. The dogs bark, they yell, shut up. The dogs bark some more, they yell, shut up. I'm not talking about when you go to someone's house and the dogs bark a little bit and then the person tells the dogs to be quiet and that's it. I'm talking about parents that have several dogs all over our country are constantly doing this. They allow their dogs to bark, and then the kid has to tell the dog to shut up. And eventually nothing happens. They just keep saying shut up. They're just sitting there being abused by the dog barking, but they can't do anything about it. And they're just in a constant state of stress response. Stress response. It's just stressing us out, listening to these dogs bark. And it's not just the parents that have children with dogs. It's everywhere we go. Every neighborhood, every apartment house, people have to listen to dogs bark all the time, and they have to sit there and tell themselves, well, it's okay, and they become helpless. They end up adopting this learned helplessness. So guys, maybe I'm wrong. So let me go to the internet and type in, I did a search here. It says, barking dogs are the best. So I should get a bunch of responses, right? Because that's what the dog owners are going to say. Oh, it's not a big deal. It's cool. It's fine. I just have migraines and diabetes and it's fine. Well, I didn't get any results about the dogs being the best. In fact, people are asking what dogs to get that don't bark. So let me do another search on the interwebs. For this one, I typed in barking dogs are ruining my life. And yep, barking dogs ruining my mental health. Lots of people are talking about this. Lots of people are having problems with this. So this is not some kind of new, weird, oh, it's that dog hater guy. No, this is very, very much affecting our society. It's causing hearing loss. It's causing terrible mental issues for our little kids. And there's no reason to let it go on. There's not one good reason to let this go on. Okay, let's look at another study. This study is called Noise Exposure and Hearing Loss Assessment. So this looks at people that work around dogs. Police officers, dog groomers, and people that worked in shelters. And so for this study, I read the whole thing. It's very long. You guys can read it yourself. But I did a keyword search for exceed. Now, all through this article, it talks about the noise level was exceeded. So I got, see right there, it says exceed. So all of these people experience hearing loss. So let me type in for a keyword search, loss. I have 47 results. So there was a lot of hearing loss. Hearing loss among workers in the kennel area. 33 employees had hearing loss. So all throughout this study, there was hearing loss from police officers and kennel workers. What's going on with that? Hearing loss among the workers. Now they say animals, hearing loss, hearing loss. So all of these people in the study had a hearing loss. So dog barking causes hearing loss. Why? Why do we need dogs, you guys? These people that use dogs in like the prisons, they can do that with technology. They can give the prisoners like stuff that calms them down. So let's go back to our other webpage when it talks about hearing loud noises. It causes a stress response. It causes all of these hormones to go up. Noradrenaline, adrenaline. So when you hear a loud dog barking, you're getting pumped up with adrenaline. So why do we want to have police dogs and dogs in prisons that pump up the adrenaline of people? Don't we want to lower their adrenaline? It doesn't make sense to deploy a dog when a dog barking is going to cause your glands to, your heart rate goes up, your stress response goes up, you're full of cortisol, your immune cells start to get turned down. Okay, back to the learned helplessness part of this. Do you guys see what I'm looking at? These people that do these things to children, who do you think their easiest targets are? If you go and look at an interview of these molesters, they will talk to you about what type of kids they target. Okay? So, they target kids that feel helpless. When you have learned helplessness and you feel like you just can't control a situation, you are training yourself to turn off your humanity and just be like, well, whatever, I can't do anything about anything, and this is just what's going to happen. One of the things that these people that do this to children, they look for kids. I'm not going to bother clicking on any of these. I'll put a couple of them in the link. But a kid that feels helpless or feels lost, that's the type of kid that gets targeted by these people. So by putting your kid around a barking dog or in a home or apartment where a dog barks all the time, you're teaching that child learned helplessness, and that's child abuse and it's child neglect. If you have dogs in your house and your life is fine, this is not a personal attack on you, but I see it all over the place. Adults sit there and just expect everybody to listen to the barking dog, and then they have a kid and they expect a kid to listen to the barking dog, and the kid ends up spending hours and hours of her life or his life saying, "Shut up, shut up, shut up" to the dogs. You're forcing that kid to be addicted to cortisol right at a young age. And I mentioned this in a previous video about how dog culture causes us to be addicted to cortisol and how nasty it is. And I'll put that video in the link. It's not good to make our kids be addicted to cortisol. Okay? It's not good to make our police officers and shelter workers have hearing loss. It's not good to destroy your neighbor's life with excessive barking dogs. It's not good to overstress our body and put us at risk for one of the most terrible diseases right now. And I know that I'm not the only one that has this opinion. In fact, a whole lot of Americans are spending a whole lot of money to try to rid their life of barking. So this is a serious issue. We're putting our fellow kids at developmental risks. We're putting them at higher risk for hearing loss, higher risk for diabetes, higher risk for mental issues. And all you got to do is go on the internet and look at what people are buying. Devices to stop dogs from barking. In my opinion, anyone that owns a dog should have one of these, fully charged up every morning. No barking. We don't need barking. And evidently, a whole lot of people are spending a whole lot of money trying to get other people's dog to that right there. Shut your mouth. So, I will put some playlists down in the description. The playlist will have more videos by the time you get there probably, but barking causes deafness will be there. And I'm going to put this little playlist about how prison dogs are used against prisoners. And they say that they need these in prisons, I guess. But you remember a point that I made just a couple minutes ago? Adrenaline. Loud noises cause adrenaline, okay? So, if you're dealing with a prisoner in a prison, do you want them to be hyped up on adrenaline? That's just going to give you an excuse to allow these dogs to bite the prisoners more. It seems to me these prisoners that have been bitten by dogs, they could have gave them something to drink to help them calm down. You know, they could play some calming music in the prison. Instead, they're allowing these dogs to bite them, and it makes no sense. I mean, just looking at this picture of the dog, you know, that can get your adrenaline pumped. And then these prisoners have to sit there and be barked at, and even the guards will call the prisoners names. So that's a good point about the adrenaline that is caused by barking dogs. It's bad for us, and it's also creating bad situations with these dogs. And one last playlist that I'll share with you guys: police dogs versus innocent citizens. Many times police dogs will attack young children or people that they were not supposed to attack. And when these people that are being attacked by the dog are getting bit, what do you think's happening to them? Their adrenaline is being shot through the roof, which makes it very hard for the situation to get under control peacefully. There's no peace and calm about it. These people are being chased and bit by dogs, people that the cops were not even looking for. And then your adrenaline goes through the roof, and then it's hard to get the situation under control. So, as you see, having someone's adrenaline ramped up puts them in more danger. Each one of these people, when they were bit, the cops will say, "Hold still, stop arrest, stop resisting." But when your adrenaline is being shot through the roof more than it ever has been before, it's very hard to hold still. And then that makes the dog react more, and then your flesh and bones get ripped from your body more. So having our adrenaline constantly spiked by the presence of dogs when it comes to hearing loss, prisons, police officers, it's not good for anybody. You know, it's not even good for the dog. So, dog culture people, what are you going to do? Are you going to quiet your dogs down? Are you going to take some steps to help your kids have better health? Are you going to take some steps to help your police officer stop losing their hearing? Or are you just going to keep doing what you've been doing?